Students, welcome to AKS IAS Contemporary Issues Essay Perspective series. In this video, we will be discussing about National Education Policy of 2020. So, in this lecture, we'll analyze what are the changes that have been brought into this National Education Policy and how does it differ from the National Education Policy of 1986, and what are the implications of the same, and what could be the possible critiques for this education policy that we will be looking at. So recently, the National Education Policy was announced by the Ministry of Human Resource Development, soon to be called as the Ministry of Education. The policy is aimed at transforming the Indian education system to meet the needs of the 21st century. The new policy seeks rectification of the poor literacy and numeracy outcomes associated with primary schools, as well as reduction in dropout levels in the middle and secondary schools. And it also seeks to adopt multidisciplinary approach in higher education system. So if you see the very first para of this article that we are discussing, the policy seeks to address all the three major levels of education, that is at the primary level, the secondary and middle school level, and at the higher education level. Apart from this, the policy also focuses on early childhood care, restructuring the curriculum as well as pedagogy, reforming assessments and exams, and investing in teacher training and broad basing their appraisal. So it is trying to address the long term issues that have been plaguing the education sector in India, right from the childhood, right from the pre-education level or the pre-childhood level. What is the care that is required for the child that is being taken care of, and also the whole pedagogy in which the present education system is functioning is to be restructured. And also our examination system presently, which is indirectly promoting rote learning and studying only for the sake of marks, these kind of issues are sought to be resolved through this new education policy by reforming the assessment and examination structure in India. Also, the much neglected area which has been plaguing Indian education sector, that is the quality of teachers. So to improve the quality of teachers, there has been this policy seeks to further, this policy seeks to improve the investment in the teacher training and also broad base their appraisal levels. Though the new National Education Policy of 2020 seeks to bring a holistic change in the education system of India, its success depends on the will and way in which it will be implemented. Ultimately, though this vision, the policy vision seems to be, very good, however, its efficacy will all only depend on how well it is being implemented and carrying forward. So, number one, the changes that it seeks to be brought, that the NEP 2020 seeks to bring in are, it now seeks to rename the Ministry of Human Resources as the Ministry of Education, which we already discussed. For schools, from the present system of 10 plus 2, it will be 5 plus 3 plus 4. What is the system? The current 10 plus 2 structure, that is the schooling level, that is 10 years of schooling, and then plus 2 structure is for the intermediate level, in which the policy covered schooling from the class 1 to 10 for the age groups of students 6 to 16, and then the class 11 to 12 for the age groups of 16 to 18. However, this new policy gives way to 5 years of foundational education and 3 years of preparatory and 3 years of middle and 4 years of secondary schooling. So one most important change that it has brought in is the pre-primary level education is also brought into this picture. That is from age 4 of the student that is being considered. That is the foundational education. So from pre-primary to first and second class, it is this 5 years which is considered as foundational education. Then 3 years of preparatory school, third class to fifth class, and then sixth class to eighth class is considered as middle school, and then you have the secondary school from 8th to 12th. Next is multi-streaming, the flexibility to choose subjects across different streams and all subjects to be offered at two levels of proficiency. Then the diluted board exams to test only the core competencies of students and could become modular, that is object and subjective, and will be offered twice a year. Also, the multilingual approach is sought to be proposed by this policy. The three language policy to continue with preference for local language as a medium of instruction till class 8. Then bagless days. School students to have 10 bagless days in a year during which they are exposed to vocational education, that is an informal internship. Now let us try to look at what is the policy seeking to change at the college level. Satellite the policy seeks to provide a SAT-like college test, that is the National Testing Agency, to conduct common college entrance exam twice a year, NTA. Then there would be a 4-year bachelor degree, a 4-year multidisciplinary bachelor degree to be preferred rather than a 3-year. Midterm dropouts to be given credit with the option to complete the degree even after a break. Presently, this is not possible. See, for instance, you have started a degree, pursuing a degree. For example, you have joined BA Social Sciences. So after first year, you drop out. So when you want to return to the BA degree, you have to start again from the first year. However, this new policy states that if a person is dropping out at the first year, he will be given a credit based on his performance for the first year. So when he comes back after 4 or 5 years to resume his degree, he can continue from the second year. No affiliation. Over next 15 years, college will be given graded autonomy to give degrees. Affiliation with universities to end. So would deemed university status. Fee cap. Proposal to cap fee charged by private institutions of higher learning. Also, the policy seeks for going global. Top rated global universities to be facilitated to come to India, and top Indian institutions to be encouraged to go global. So, these are some of the significant points, significant initiatives that the National Education Policy 2020 seeks to implement. So, what is the significance of the National Education Policy? Now, let us try to look into the details of it. Number one, recognizing the importance of formative years. In adopting a 5 plus 3 plus 4 model for school education, starting at the age 3, the policy recognizes the primacy of formative years of a child from the age 3 to 8 in shaping a child's future. So, this policy fundamentally seeks to understand the importance of formative years of a child, which was earlier neglected. Number two, departure from silos mentality. Another key aspect of the school education in the new policy is the breaking of the strict division of arts, commerce, and science streams in high school. So, presently, what is happening is there is a strict division. Okay, this artificial division of subjects has been created. However, the new policy seeks to do away with these divisions and try to give equal importance to all streams of education. This can lay the foundation of a multidisciplinary approach in higher education so that a child is free to choose his area of interest and all the areas have been given equal potential, and in this way a multidisciplinary approach and multidisciplinary perspective will be developed in a child. Number 3 is a confluence of education and skills. The policy seeks to say that the aspect of introduction of vocational courses with an internship, this may nudge the vulnerable section of the society to send their school to children. So, one of the positive implications this policy might have, as this policy seeks to promote vocational education, so people even belonging to the vulnerable sections or the so-called backward sections of the society who depend on their vocational skills, who depend on their vocational crafts and arts. So those kind of parents will also be now willing to send their children to the schools so that their vocational skills can be enriched, enhanced, and they will now be part of a formal education system where they can be their future can be in a much better progressive manner. Also, it would help in realization of the goal of Skill India mission. Number four is making education more inclusive. What is this? Then how does the policy seeks to make this? The NEP proposes the extension of the right to education to all children up to the age of 18 years. Okay. Further, the policy seeks to leverage the huge potential of online pedagogy and learning methodologies for increasing gross enrollment in higher education. Number five is the light but tight oversight. According to the policy, in spite of periodic inspection, transparency, maintaining quality standards, and a favorable public perception will become a 24 by 7 pursuit for the institution, leading to all round development in their standard. The policy also seeks to establish a super regulator for the education, which will be responsible for standard setting, funding, accreditation, and regulation of higher education in India. So presently, what is happening is you have different kinds of regulators. Like for collegiate education, you have AICTE, okay, and then you have different kinds of regulators like UGC. So this strict division, an artificial division of regulatory powers is leading to red tapeism. So, thus, the policy seeks to establish a super regulator where it will give the broad dimensions, broad standards in which the higher education system will operate, and then the streamlining of the procedures and the streamlining of higher education system can be taken place. Number six is allowing foreign universities. The document states that universities from among the top 100 in the world will be able to set up campuses in India. This will lead to an infusion of international perspective and innovation, which will make the Indian education system more efficient and competitive. Number seven is ending the Hindi versus English debate. Most crucially, the NEP 2020 once and for all buries the strident Hindi versus English language debate. Instead, it emphasizes on making mother tongue or local language or the regional language as the medium of instruction, at least till grade 5, which is considered the best medium of teaching of the students. So, having discussed the broad contours of national education policy, now let us try to analyze the issues related to national education policy. Number one is the knowledge jobs mismatch. There's a persistent mismatch between the knowledge and skills imparted and the jobs available in the market. This has been one of the main challenges that have affected the Indian education system since independence. The new education policy 2020 failed to check this, as it is silent on the education related to emerging technological fields like artificial intelligence, cyberspace, nanotechnology, etc. So this is one of the criticism of the NEP 2020. Number two, the another criticism is the requirement of enormous resources. An ambitious target of public spending at 6% of the GDP has been set. Mobilizing financial resources will be a big challenge given the low tax to GDP ratio and competing claims on the national exchequer of the healthcare. Okay, so presently a lot of burden is already being exercised on the national exchequer due to healthcare, national security, and resources to be mobilized for other key sectors. So the some of the critics say that is it actually feasible if India allocates 6% of its public spending on education sector? So what could be the way forward? Number one is the need for cooperative federalism. Since education is a concurrent list subject, both the center and state governments can make laws on it. The reforms proposed can only be implemented collaboratively if both the center and states work in tandem with each other and try to make this new educational policy as efficient as possible and try to implement in more meaningful manner. Thus, the center has the giant task of building a consensus on the many ambitious plans regarding education. Number two, strive towards universalization of education. There is a need for the creation of inclusion funds to help socially and educationally disadvantaged children to pursue education. Also, there is a need to set up a regulatory process that can check the profiteering from education in the form of unaccounted donations. Number three is to bridge the digital gap. If technology is a force multiplier with unequal access, what happens is it can also expand the gap between the haves and have nots. So, thus, the government needs to address the striking disparities in access to digital tools so as the ideal or the goal of universalization of education is realized in true form and spirit. Next is inter-ministerial coordination. There is an emphasis on vocational training, but so as to make this NEP 2020 effective, there has to be a close coordination between the education, see, between the different ministries related to education, skills, and labor ministries. So this convergence of operationalization and inter-ministerial coordination will lead to realization of the goal of vocational education and quality vocational education in India. So, in conclusion, we can say that the new educational policy of 2020 is a good policy and a progressive one as it aims to make the education system holistic, flexible, multidisciplinary, and aligned to the needs of the 21st century, and it is in tune with the 2030 sustainable development goals. Okay, the intent of the policy seems to be ideal in making way. See, the intent of the policy, as we already discussed, seems to be ideal in many ways, but as we already discussed, it is the implementation where the success of this policy lies. Only if this policy is implemented in true form of spirit, only then it will be successful. So please try to make note of this question and try to answer this question based on the discussion we had. The question states, discuss the salient features of the National Education Policy 2020 and how can it bring about a holistic change in the Indian education system. So please try to answer this question in the comment section below. Thank you. Have a good day.